Welcome to Ric Drasin Live. Here we are again, another week, another weekend, fun-filled weekend full of fitness and nutrition, which we all like to follow. And on this show, this is what we talk about. And my guest today, I've known for quite a while. He's been involved in bodybuilding and fitness and nutrition for many, many years, and probably almost as many years as I have. He's run fitness shows and bodybuilding shows, and it takes all kinds of ups and downs with fitness and bodybuilding. We're going to talk about that. There's so many shows that he's run that the list would be like 5 pages. So I can't go through every one of them, but we're going to talk about them. And it's my pleasure to welcome Mike Glass. Thank you, Mike, for being here.
Thank you so much, Rick, for having me.
Geez, it's like you've done so much with fitness and bodybuilding and all this type of stuff that, I mean, you're well versed. There's no question about that. You began bodybuilding at what age?
I was 13.
Really?
I started at 13. My father died of a massive heart attack. I looked at him and I said, I don't want to be like him.
Yeah.
I was skinny, I was underweight, I had no confidence, and I said, that's what I'm going to do. So I began to read the magazines. I think your picture was in a few of the magazines. So it was a wonderful thing, and that's what got me started, Rick.
It's funny because when I ask people that, the first thing they say is, I used to look at the magazines, and I did too.
Yes, yes.
You know, I'd go back and get magazines from, I have them all the way back to 1941, if you can imagine that.
Absolutely.
And they're still in my garage tied with a little piece of string.
Yeah.
But they were inspiring because bodies weren't built like that back in the day, just a few guys.
Certainly.
And I would read articles about how to pack on muscle, you know, eat your meat and drink your milk and train hard, and you order the weights, and it was always like a 110-pound set, and I said this once before, why couldn't this be 100, why did it have to be 110?
Yeah.
Where's the 2 5s come from?
Yeah, where'd they come from? It was the collars, I think.
Yeah, it was a collar. Yeah, it was the collars, exactly.
That's right.
And you'd bring it home and work out on your patio. You didn't have any equipment, but you made progress.
Yes, you did.
It worked, didn't it?
It proved that no matter what you do, Rick, in life, as long as you persevere, you will make progress. I couldn't make any progress for the first couple of years because I was young. My metabolism was so fast.
True.
So you know the story.
What about your nutrition?
Well, that gradually caught on later. I realized I worked hard as the next guy, but I wouldn't grow. Nothing would happen. So I began to start to study nutrition, start to look at it, and really get into it. So I made it the 4 spiritual laws, you might say, of good health.
Okay, what were those?
I have no idea, but it sounds good.
But there's 4 of them.
Yeah, there's 4 of them.
I have 3.5.
Okay.
I did the same thing. I mean, my thing was drinking 3 quarts of milk a day, you know, and eating a lot of meat and putting on size, which I did, and you put on fat with it.
Yes.
But then after you kind of like, it soaks in and you read the magazines and see the guys, what they're actually doing, and by the time I moved down here to Venice to train, it completely restructured my diet, and that was the whole key to getting a good body. But it started with powerlifting, and powerlifting was a good base for training.
Exactly.
You had the bench press, squat, and deadlift, which works the whole body.
Exactly.
Then you throw in some arms and whatever.
Yeah.
And today I see people training, and they're training all wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
They're not doing anything right. I was in the gym today. There were 6 sets of dumbbells on the floor, and a guy sitting there, and he went to get water. I said, "Are you using those?" He says, "Oh, no, those were there when I got there." They don't put them back.
No, they don't.
I couldn't find the ones I wanted. But it takes a while for your body to kick in. At 13, by the time you were 16, 17, you saw a difference?
Oh, absolutely, Rick. I was feeling more confident. I entered my first show when I was, I think, about 19 or 20.
Okay, what show was that?
And it was Mr. California.
Okay.
I came in, no tan, a ponytail, and the worst pair of posing briefs you can imagine. I placed dead last.
Really?
Yes. It was a great experience.
Maybe you should have worn those jeans.
I think if I would have worn the jeans, I would have won. I don't think they made them that.
No,
that
they didn't
time.
make them back
Anyway.
then. There was a guy that entered a contest way back in those days, and they had 31 contestants. He was number 31.
Yeah.
And he came in last. His last name was Jinx.
Jinx.
He got jinxed. Sure, it was Henry Jinx. I remember the name. He was a short little black guy about like this.
Okay.
Well, did you learn something from doing that show?
Yes, I did. In fact, a good friend of mine, Jim Morris, who was, I went on to win Mr. America, it was Bill Pearl's mentor.
Right.
He was the one, he said, "Mike, you got it all, but you need to learn how to pose." So I took a drive in my car, went up there to Jim. He showed me the moves and everything. It was a totally different ball game. I think the next show I went into, in fact, I had the Hong Kong flu back in '71. I was deathly sick.
Remember that.
My buddy down in Oceanside said, "Why don't you get into the show? I think you'll do well." I says, "Artie," I said, "I just lost about 20 pounds. I'm skinny as can be." Got into the show. They were announcing the winners. It was Mr. Pacific Southwest and Most Muscular Man. and Bob Janis was there with Oceanside Fitness, and they began to announce the winners. 5th place, in 4th place, in 3rd place. I slipped my pants on and started to walk out. In 1st place, Mike Glass. My God, I ran to that stage, jumped on a table, there I was.
That's amazing.
It changed my life.
I'm sure it did.
It really did.
I trained with Jim Morris in 1969 when I moved here.
Yes.
And we went. I remember working out with him. We go to Bill Pearl's gym, but it was in Inglewood at the time.
Yes.
And then I was working for Kellogg's, and I got Jim a job working for Carnation as a salesman.
Oh, yeah.
And so he kept that job for 20-something years. I kept my job for a year and a half. I said, I'm done.
I'm done.
Going to the beach.
Of course.
He kept that car, the company car, for like 20 years, and he ended up buying it from the company. He still has it today.
You're kidding.
Nope, he still has it. He's, what, 78 years old now?
That's why they call him Gentleman Jim.
Gentleman Jim. But he
Gentleman
knew
Jim.
his training, and he knew his posing, and he learned the posing from Bill.
Bill was the master.
Bill Pearl was the master, and his gym in Inglewood was a hardcore gym, but boy, I made progress there.
Yes, it did.
I mean, like
Was that Bill Pearl's gym?
Bill Pearl's gym on Manchester Avenue in Inglewood.
Yes, I heard about it.
It was the Hood.
Yeah, the Hood.
It was definitely down in the Hood. I was one of the only white guys there, but I got along with everybody. So you entered shows for how many years?
I entered shows for the first 5 years or so. But the thing that got me, Rick, was I would enter all these shows, and you'd go underneath in a gymnasium. They would have a light under a basketball hoop, and you'd be posing. The lights weren't like we have these wonderful lights in the studio.
Right.
They just showed a little bit, and I said, you know, and maybe I'd win something. I would take the trophy home to my mom. Says, Mom, look what I just won. It was the size of a coffee cup.
Yeah.
I put in a solid year's work into it. I said, something's wrong here. We got to do something to change the sport. And I had this idea maybe to run a show. So
that's where that began. But let me tell you, we're going to go there too, but I entered a show in Palm Springs. I remember driving there. It was hotter than hell, and we're doing this contest, and I won a trophy, and I'm standing there posing for the cameras, and the trophy literally was standing next to me, and it came up to my ankle.
Yeah.
It was this big.
Yeah,
what
that's
am I
what
going to do
got.
with a trophy that big? It looks like I got it at a toy store.
I think you entered the same show I did. It was George Bruce.
It could have been.
Who's dead now, and he used to run some wonderful shows out there.
Yeah.
But I know the guys, Paul Hill was there, Dave Johns, all these
guys.
Yeah,
sure.
And I think I got a trophy that day, so I was very happy.
Yeah, it was very hot out there.
Yeah, it was.
So this inspired you to maybe kick into your own shows? Is that what happened?
I thought, yeah, Rick, I've got a creative idea. You know, I was usually, when you don't have a mentor, like a father to say, do this, son, do that.
Yeah.
I had to look for mentors to give me some inspiration.
Yeah.
Bill Pearl, Bob Del Monteque, Joe Weider, these were all my mentors because I really didn't have one.
Right.
So I decided, you know what, let's do a gym show. So I used to run a gym named Adam and Eve Health Club. They used to issue fig leaves out at the door for the men and the women. I'm kidding.
Yeah, okay.
But it was, anyway, I ran a club show. We had 100 people show up. It was a little show called Mr. Adam and Eve. And I was thrilled. We did it. We did it 2 years in a row. And we got 150 the second year. There was a show out there at that time called Mr. and Miss Orange County. The guy that ran it was a guy named Ron Ferrer that had Ferrara's Gym down in Garden Grove. And I said, Ron, are you going to run the show again? He says, no, we're done, man. We lost our everything. So I took the show and I said, let's make this different. Everybody's got a Mr. this, a Mr. that. Let's do something different. So I said to my buddy, I said, there's golf classics, there's racing classics. Let's do a muscle classic.
Good idea.
And that was the start of Muscle Classic. We did our first show, 1,000 people showed up.
How'd you advertise that show? What was the best form?
It was posters in all the gyms, and I never forgot, we had Frank Zane, guest poser. We had Bill Pearl.
That helped a lot.
And Bill Pearl was there. He brought down the house. He was such a nice guy.
Totally.
And so we brought it on, and a guy named Leo Stern was down there.
I remember Leo Stern from San Diego. Right?
Yeah, from San Diego, Stern's gym.
Right.
And he said, Mike, Mike, he kept yelling at me, and he says, I said, what, Leo? He says, that's the best damn show I've ever been to in the last 20 years, you know?
Yeah.
And I said, you think we can do it, Leo? And he says, I think you got something here. So we started building and building and building. The next thing you know, we took our little show out of the little high school, brought it into the Anaheim Convention Center. We put in 5,000 people from our first show next to our in 1985. And we put in 5,000. We were the biggest show in the country. We tied the Olympia record that year. So I was very pleased with it.
Did you work with Wally Boyko?
No, indirectly. Wally was somewhat of a competitor of mine. We didn't do the same. We didn't do the same thing, but he kind of used our venues.
He drew well.
He did. He had a golden idea called the Super Bowl of bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And I like Wally. He was ahead of his time, I think.
Yeah.
I think he got squeezed out, or else the industry kind of.
I did a couple of his shows as a vendor. I brought my T-shirt designs after I did the Goals logo, and I had all these different T-shirts in a booth.
Yeah.
And I'd go for a Saturday and leave Sunday around 4 o'clock. I'd make $2,000 in T-shirts just sitting there.
Oh yeah. Well, we had a captive audience in those days.
Totally
Rick.
captive audience.
Yeah, you had a captive audience.
And he had good people. Remember John Brown? He did some posing.
John Brown was the guy that entered our first OC.
Yeah.
And he was the best poser. I call him Michael Jackson of bodybuilding.
Amazing.
He could dance. He could break dance. He could do
the
robot.
Exactly.
Could do everything. And I'll tell you a quick story about him. Later on, as I started building in the industry, my name started growing. He came along and he got kind of shafted by other federations. He could barely place. So we had a show in Europe called the WABBA. There was a World Championships with Serge Nubret and a couple of millionaire contributors. So I said, the man to get on your team is John Brown. He went, the crowd went crazy.
Oh, they went crazy over him?
They went crazy over John.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have to move on. I see our time limit's going. I want to know quickly, though, about women in bodybuilding. Was that big for you?
Women, I'll tell you a quick story. Vince Gironda, who everybody knows, was the guru. I was training a girl back in the 80s, took her to a show, trained her for about a half a year, took her in there, and I didn't think she would place because there was 40 girls. She ended up getting second runner-up in Miss World. Here's a girl that barely got out of the city limits. So we had a party for Vince Gironda up in the Disneyland Hotel, and Vince says, I'll never have any girls in my gym. They're just trouble.
Right.
I turn around and Vince is saying, hey, Debbie, that's the one I train.
Right.
Why don't you come over to my gym? I'll teach you really how to train. It's come so far with Rachel McLeish, all the girls that have come along. Now, this is where my ties with the Weider Company came in, because after a while, the girls were getting a little bit too muscular, as you know, Rick.
Yeah, we know that.
Yeah,
it's a turnoff to a lot of people.
Yeah.
What are your plans now for the future shows? You have something coming up?
Well, we just did our show, which, by the way, folks, we gave Rick a Golden Award.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
And it was Legends in Wrestling and Sports Achievement Award, which he well deserves.
It's on my wall.
We were so pleased to have you. So we did the OC Fit Expo in Orange County at the most luxurious convention center, the Anaheim Convention Center.
Right.
It was a beautiful convention center. We had a wonderful show there. Unfortunately, we had it kind of late in the year.
Yeah.
So we picked up, we're going to be doing this year, Rick, shows in different cities like Irvine, Muscle Beach, Surf City, Laguna Beach, things like that. Now, what they'll be is qualifiers. Then we're going to have our big show at the end of the year.
And you'll let me know?
I will let you know.
Okay, where can we find you on the internet? If people want to find you, where would you be?
Well, I can go on theocfitexpo.com or ocfitexpo@yahoo.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're there. And they can find you through my Facebook as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. We're running out of time, unfortunately, and I'd love to talk about all kinds of things. Maybe we do a part 2 sometime.
You bet. I'm so pleased to be here.
Okay. And I wanted to let you guys know that there's a book that I have called Bodybuilding for Dumbbells. It's a basic training book of what we did back in the day of the 70s. Everybody wants to be complex with training. It's really not complex. It takes you through every body part, nutrition, how many sets, how many reps to get a good body. It's $10. It's on the internet. Go on ricdrasin.com. Click on it. It's a download. It's not a hard copy. It's a download, so you can have it instantly. And they'll teach you how to work out. And so we'll move on, and next time we'll talk about more shows, and I'll help you promote those shows.
I hope so, Rick.
You can find me on my next show after this called Tough and Tender here at emPOWERme.tv. You can also find me at ricdrasin.com, rickscorner.com, Facebook, Twitter, And as I've said many times over, at the men's room and Starbucks, reading the paper at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Love it.
So thank you for watching Ric Drasin Live, and stay tuned next week at 12:30 when we'll be here again.
Thank you, Rick.
Hi, I'm Ric Drasin. For tips on health and nutrition and fitness and bodybuilding and wrestling and all the stuff you want to know, subscribe to me on emPOWERme.tv. I'm on every Friday at 12:30 p.m. I'm looking forward to meeting you. And stay healthy.